quite a gap there already. Anything still to play for, especially for the top two. We'll see how they can do. And then in GT3, it's looking a little bit different. Baumart's currently leading over Laurent and Raffieux. Obviously, those three are the ones to watch, I think. Although Dewald's actually managed to be very consistent this season, putting him in a shared third place essentially here. So a little bit behind on individual performance. But, you know, I think all it's fair to say it's been a good season for him so far. And they're still very much in the mix for some good prizes too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be starting in a couple minutes. So we're going to be taking a little bit of a break. And then in a couple minutes, we should be getting ready for qualifying.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
Very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
All right, and we are here then. Welcome everyone, welcome to the first few laps out there. I must say I'm very excited for this one here. We have Victor Mestre Silva behind the wheel of his hypercar BMW. Of course, at the moment it's unknown as to how these drivers can do. If they manage to shake it up. You know, I am seeing, of course, the drivers that are usually here ready to defend, and I think I'm kind of worried about that, really. Fabian Klein, of course, always there. Maximilian Röhrig, Keenan at the back. The drivers to watch, they're here in the server. And they're looking to see what they can do in a position like this, really. This is obviously a difficult round, this one. Circuit of the Americas is definitely a very tricky track, and also one that is driven, of course, a little bit less. I feel like it's a little bit less of a driver's favorite. It's one of those tracks that you either hate or you love. And in this currently cloudy but also clear weather, it is the fastest lap currently by Maximilian Röhrig, who is doing well so far to post a first 2:00 lap. Now, I find it very likely that the drivers in the hypercar class are actually going to be finding themselves in a position where they can go under that mark. But they gotta keep in mind as well that after those 10 minutes, we're gonna see the GT3s join, and when the GT3s join, things are gonna get complicated. Victor Messer Silva currently 5th fastest. It's got a long way to go still. With 2:28 being his fastest active lap, that's obviously nothing to write home about, and actually is probably matching on GT3 pace. So yeah, we're gonna have to see some improvements by him, which I'm sure we'll get to see around a little bit later. As for now, though, it's mainly the top drivers that we gotta watch. I think Fabian Klein, Kilian Lutterbach, and Maximilian Roehrig, although gap is quite big. But yeah, we are gonna see those times drop around the 150 mark. 151, I guess, would be a realistic time for these first couple laps in there, seeing how these drivers usually compare to these drivers IRL in the World Endurance Championship. And there it is indeed, this 151.214 for Maximilian Roehrig, and you can now see that Fabian Klein has a very small gap here. It's 0.3 of a second here, and now Kilian Lutterbach getting himself involved in this battle. We're mainly seeing that the other drivers are still yet to really see a lap in where they can perform like this, and that's going to be difficult to say the least. At least in the beginning, of course. Now, Victor Mestre Silva actually managed to improve his lap to 153.008, and that's roughly a second off pace, I think, compared to the top 3 in what we can expect in 5 minutes. So it's the end of the world for him, but I do just want to see that he can push a little bit further. Now, luckily for him, gaps behind are still quite large, and there's only 9 drivers actually going for the hypercar this time around. Some guest drivers in this competition too. Obviously, the drivers can choose to enter a full season or just do a race as a guest, and usually you'll see that these drivers that drive as guests, they are very mixed in terms of skill levels, a little bit more than the usual drivers in this series. Now, of course, that is to be logically explained. We have the drivers that are in this league practicing pretty hard in the motion rigs that they have in the Nürburgring eSports centers, whereas the drivers that are here for one time might need to get used to the fact that they're driving in a motion setup, driving on big TVs, direct drive wheels. They might not actually have that at home. In fact, I can tell you that these simulators cost quite a bit of money. I think this is just the more solid option as of now. We will see how things go. For now, though, I think all is okay. I think we can be very happy with how this is going. Victor Mestre Silva on the edge. The stream Maximilian Roehrig going fastest right now, 150.868 being the time to beat the first driver to go sub 151 in qualifying for the hypercars. And that's going to be very hard to beat. I think that is just kind of a big gap right now. Obviously, Fabian Klein is still going to be tempted to give it a go. Michael Bauer finding his faster laps now. 151.607 has put him in a place where I think he can be happy. Best of the rest for him so far in the hypercars. Dorian Malbasic has come back in towards the pit. He seems to be having an issue. We now have 8 times recorded here in the hypercar, and Art van Kanaal might be actually posting one soon too. He's going to be aiming to probably end up in the middle of the pack. I think that would be a good achievement for him, judging by the performances that we have seen during the championship overall. But I think, you know, this is not the end of the world. This is still a position that these drivers will be satisfied with if traffic were to get in the way, because the GT3s are going to get released in about 12 minutes. And they have that luxury of being able to just warm up with the traffic and go for their serious attack laps whenever the drivers from the hypercars have actually left the server, as they need to pit for the last 10 minutes of the qualifying session, and that's where we can try and get to see what is left for us. So far, I think it's a good result here for Maximilian Röhrig. So far, still the only driver to actually get into those 150s. 2 minutes left to go until the GT3s will join the track. And it's obviously still everything to play for in the GT3 Championship too. It's a very competitive league. I think it's actually more competitive than the hypercars. Drivers obviously on very different skill levels in general, I think. A bit of a lockup from Michael Bauer here. Still though, times are kind of concentrating with the top 5. All now on a 150 or 151, with Maximilian Röhrig being the quickest so far out there today. For 150.277, that's over a second faster than the second time. And Timothy Sparisen probably the biggest surprise in a positive sense. Although he has a little bit of a lockup there. Still finding himself in the 151s, which is a very impressive time, I must say. Victor Mestre Silva in P6 right now, trying to dip into those 152s. He's very close to doing so. Last time was actually a little bit quicker. It was a 152.427. However, that lap was invalidated. Daniele Gattani also getting himself a little bit closer now to the driver's head, but he's still got a long way to go. Leonard from Canals come into the pits again. I think for me the biggest concern right now is Alexander Hawk. I mean, 214.239 is for them just not a very impressive lap time. Max Grenzner, P8. Now, you know, the GT3s are out. They've been released. They've been unleashed, I should say. With the stakes getting higher and higher in the penultimate round here of the Nürburgring eSports series. Things are bound to just get a little bit more intense. In fact, I'm certain that's what we're going to be seeing here. I suppose we'll see whatever this leaves us on here. At least the drivers have now gone under the 2-minute mark, which means they're probably safe from the GT3s now, which are now on track. We see the BMW of Jan Emmons, who's just looking to some drivers around him, trying to just find some clean space, which is not going to be easy with the hypercar still trying to set faster laps. I mean, a 150.097 is still second quicker than Fabian Klein, which is just absolutely massive for him. It's such an achievement. Curious to see how this goes. Here in Austin, you see that Maximilian Röhrig is still on top right now, but he's obviously dealing with the traffic. Essentially, this is just going to feel like a little bit of practice for him. Hot laps, if anything. But the BMW seems to be on a very strong pace today, and it seems like Maximilian Röhrig actually found that kind of little edge that no other driver has so far. Maximilian Röhrig, you know, he doesn't back down here. He's feeling very confident as this stands right now. A little bit of a lock up there. Dorian Malbasic trying to deal with the traffic in this Alpine. 155.051 means there's plenty of time to improve on that still if traffic doesn't get into the way of things. But you know how that goes here usually. Not an easy task, but so overall it's really just been okay. Mariam Albasic, P11. Robert Dewald coming out, and obviously keep in mind that these are actually shown on the scoreboard in a different way. So the top 12 as it stands right now are Hypercars, the top 13 to P36 are the GT3s, although there's actually some bots like the Livestream and the safety car in there. But if you ignore those, it should give you a rough idea of how things are standing. And it just shows also that we have very much GT3 action coming on compared to the Hypercars, which I think is fair. See, GT3s are a lot more accessible to drivers. They are easier to drive. They're arguably more fun to drive, depending on what you're looking for in a driving experience. And I think there's always just something cool about being the slower car in a multi-class race, and that's exactly what you are in a position like this. And so overall, it's been okay. Robert T. Wild is P18. Kilian Lutterbach is P3. It's got a long way to go still in a classic Assetto Corsa experience. Now, I think this is still probably the go-to sim racing game for many people, including me. Although I have an iRacing subscription, I keep finding myself back to this game just because of how versatile it is. And you know, Alexander Erben is trying to get some good laps in. They have all posted their out lap. Those are obviously not spectacular, right? We're seeing 12-minute laps because they were stuck in the pit. They crossed the line and then had to just kind of deal with it. The Hypercar still on the way. Kilian Lutterbach, I believe that was, or actually might have been Dorian Malbasic. Just flexing his muscles a little bit there. So we are roughly halfway through the qualifying at this point here. It's Jeremy Baumert here, once again trying to set some solid laps in here. 205.717 will be the reference time, as Norbert Dewald is exactly 8/10 off pace right now. Still 10-second gap compared to the Hypercars, so very different race for the Lexus driver. And keep in mind, it's actually one of the only drivers that has tried the Lexus at all this season. He's been loyal to it and has actually been paying off for him. He's doing really well in the championship, as you guys have seen before. Obviously also a native to the Nürburgring driver there. We had a little bit of a disconnect, but yeah, I don't know exactly what is happening here, but something seems to be messing up in the live stream here. I'm hoping that we can get that fixed. We are still moving. Based on my screen, I don't know exactly what's going on here. It seems like we might actually have a server crash here, judging that the fact that the live timing has actually also become unstable here. So I'm waiting for a little bit of an update here. I guess we'll get that fixed. So let's just go back to the camera for a second. Okay, that's weird. I don't know if it's just us here that's been kicked out. With us, I mean the people of the production crew of Nürburgring eSports. If you haven't followed, by the way, make sure to give it a go. No, the server's actually gone offline here. Oh, that is frustrating, I'm sure. I currently don't have an update for you. But when we do, we'll make sure to let you know. I don't know why my camera's getting sideways. Yeah, that is weird, and that's going to require some figuring out here. So I don't know whether the server is just completely gone off. That is what I think is very likely, but I'm not sure as of yet. But I guess an update will follow here. So what I'm going to quickly do is, while we're at it, I'm going to put ourselves on the break screen. And once there's an update, I'll promise to let you guys know, okay?
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
So it's very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
I love this atmosphere. It's the calm before the storm.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
So it's very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
I love this atmosphere. It's the calm before the storm.
Okay then. I don't know whether the entire thing has been reset here. But it does appear we're back racing here with the hypercars currently also on track. So... And the timer is running, so I wonder whether this is now live or not. But I do see that it's only the hypercars out there, so we might just have to repeat, I suppose, and just deal with whatever happened. But I guess this will do, and in fact now the clean feeds also come to an end there. So there's something going massively wrong right now over at the Nürburgring eSports series, but he's managed to get it going again, although it took a while. The quality isn't perfect. I think this will have to do. I guess we'll figure it out along the way. And you know, it is 27 minutes to go in what appears to just be a position reset with Maximilian Roig being quickest. Andre Hannes having a little bit of a moment. And this is frustrating, of course, for Roig, but it's also positive for some of these drivers that weren't quick enough. And there was no GT3 traffic around. This is Andre Hannes now trying to do well. This is Timothy Spurries, and so far he means for fast. So the times obviously they don't mean a lot yet, of course. This is Maximilian Roig then trying to see if he could maybe get out there the quickest. So overall is okay, I would say. Maximilian Roig having a little bit of a moment always, but avoided it so far. You know, it's just small lockups here. He's already back to 150 pace, so he in fact has not been slowed down much. In that sense, you know, I think it's actually not even too bad for him, and actually gives him a chance now to push into the 49s as the only driver. Conditions are still the same. There's still plenty of grip on the track also. I think this will have to do for now. And this is so far looking very good here for Fabian Klein. But I think he wants to try and see if he could at least get by Michael Power, who's now just really managed to up the pace here, whereas Kilian Lutterbank has actually gone down to P4 for now. So he's got a long way to go. But I'm sure that he's confident that he could actually pull that off if need be. You know, 24 minutes left to go. You know, all is okay for now. P4 he is. A little bit of a mess up for Kilian Lutterbank, who's actually touched that wall, unfortunately for him. That is not good, unfortunately. But I think he's actually managed to turn it around, luckily. Max Grenzner is P8 for now. Max Grenzner now is P8. Max Grenzner now looking to come around. P8 is nothing to write home about for him. I think you could definitely be improving on that, and I think you will. It's a little bit later, but we'll see how that comes around here. Now though, this is all looking okay. Maximilian Röhrig currently the fastest. And actually he has managed to get it down to a 150.007, which is just incredibly impressive, really. Some mistakes in the sound system here. Don't know as to why that's happening. I think it's fixed itself now, which is good to see. Maximilian Röhrig now. P1 still actually wonder if he's going to be able to get it down to the 150, lower than 150. I mean, that would just be incredibly impressive. Maximilian Röhrig having a little bit of a luck up here. Messy. I mean, there's 20 minutes left to go. Fabian Klein here just looking to see if he could maybe make the difference here in short time, and we do now see, impressively enough, that Maximilian Röhrig has managed to get it down to the 149. So it's incredibly impressive, really. Jeremy Baumert here also on turn track. Now keep in mind that we have 20 minutes for them, which means that the drivers now in Hypercar only have 10 more minutes here to do whatever they want. So we'll see what can come around from Jeremy Baumert. Obviously looking to see what he can do now after trying to perform in the GT3 class, of course, is not easy. Max Grenzner, P10 overall, but it's always hard to improve on your lap times when you have a position like this, because you need to consider that now that you have traffic underway, you're going to be slower no matter what here. Traffic very rarely actually makes your lap go quicker. So the drivers here that are currently at the top of the scoreboard are going to be feeling okay, obviously still pushing for improvements, but it's very rare that we see the hypercars actually managing to improve. Even though it's only qualifying, it does matter a fair bit. Because every single driver knows here that they can try and win, they can try and do well. Daniele Gattani in P7 as it stands right now. He's gonna come in towards the pit lane here, probably run out of fuel. I mean, most of these drivers are running absolute minimum fuel-wise, as we do not get to shine the light on those GT3s, and these drivers have really gone all out with improving on their livers. We did see a driver there parked up in towards the barrier, but Stuff like that will happen from time to time. It's 17 minutes on the clock here for the GT3 drivers, which means there's 7 minutes left for the hypercar drivers. Jan Schnucken gonna try and make sure that he does well. It is the Audi that he's up against. On board, just truly S's, obviously very familiar to drivers. It's a very iconic kind of sequence of corners here that you don't see very often on tracks. Maybe some that have some like this, but it's a very unique track, I think. Also, it's a good one, especially turn 1 is one of my favorites, and Jonathan Nefkin was currently parked up there. I actually don't think he's hit the wall recently. He's just been standing there for a while. Maybe having some sort of technical issue, who knows? Clacy here in P29. And a little bit of contact there for Tom Clacy, and he's going to be spun around, but he manages to get the car in the right direction rather quickly. This is Reno Cheville P25 so far, but there's some time left to go. Reno Cheville now, look at that, also abusing that slipstream as much as possible here. Maximilian Röhrig still quickest, hasn't improved this lap since the GT3s have come out. That makes sense. Reno Cheville's going to go a tiny bit too wide here, so that won't be it this lap. Gorim Albasic in P12. .53.363 is definitely quick enough, but just isn't it compared to some of these other drivers and what they're doing right now. I guess that was to be expected here. Albasic still doing well. Jeremy Baumert here doing incredibly well once again in GT3 class. Now I think that was to be expected here, right? The Lexus has just had such a good showing with him behind the wheel, and it's been like that for a while. Alexander Erben here trying to get some decent laps near the gaps. Obviously are still massive, right? I mean, there's 12 seconds between him and the fastest driver right now. He's just on his out lap here, so he's gonna get going and just, I suppose, needs to see where that leads him end of the day. But Guess we'll see a little bit later on. It's Anthony Montas here, P29, 12 minutes left to go here. Anthony Montas is driving the Roche location in Switzerland. He's gone out there and is using a Bilstein GT3 livery. I guess you guys all remember it from the Nürburgring Langstrecken series, the 24 hours of the Nürburgring, right? It is obviously car of Mr. Sheridan and Jimmy Broadbent, to name a few. It's a good looking car. I think very fitting. Anthony Montas here just trying to see if he has the pace for it. Guess we will see that a little bit later on. There is a little bit of a moment there for Jan Emmons. Not what he was hoping for, of course. Werner here. He's improving on the slab slowly but surely. Currently 3 seconds off pace here into this very tricky blind turn 1. Actually cut across the corner a little bit there, so I think he'll be called back for that. Fortunately for him. That just is what it is, right? 10 minutes left to go, and I think it's also just been one of those qualifying sessions that has really been touched quite hard by the way things have gone, right? And a way that I like to think about it is the fact that you have qualified well, you then find yourself just recovering from that now, unfortunately. It's a little bit of a mental game at times, and I think that's most definitely showing here. Stuttgart now trying to see if he could come out there, perhaps. So for Stuttgart, doing everything he needs. P15 overall is a good position for him to start, considering that would put him in P3 in his class right now, which of course would be a massive result for him. I think something that he would be very proud of. And Schnutken here also making a little bit of a mistake, and Jesses have just proven very difficult, I think, for the majority of drivers, really. It's a tricky combination of corners. Thibaut Raffieux, always a heavy hitter, driver that does just incredibly well. Trying to push himself and the Audi R8 that he's driving to the absolute limit here. Which, let's be honest, he has managed pretty well. But the race is still pretty long after this. You gotta keep in mind that this is more of an endurance kind of thing. Than a sprint race. Especially towards the season finale at the Nürburgring GP, you'll be sure to know that. But we just gotta see. Long way to go still, everyone going to the absolute limit whenever they can. Darian Malbasic. Mainly just looking to upgrade his pace in the final couple minutes out. Obviously the hypercars are long gone. They left a couple minutes ago, and that means that the GT3s have gotten a clean track to work with. That will obviously help him here during these kind of extra practices, it might feel like, for some of these. But no, we are in qualifying. With a reset, of course, that hasn't really helped anyone, but it will do. Cheville here. Still doing well, P3. Obviously you can see very well that all the hypercars are in, so guess we'll see what can happen. Plenty of time to go still. This is Patrick Fuchs, but he's currently being chased by the fastest driver out there. Patrick Fuchs here. I think is gonna just hope for summer action here, because he isn't there yet, but knows that he's got the potential here to do well and improve on whatever laps he's currently set. This is Cedric Abiadi we're aboard with. He's done exceptionally well, I want to say. I think that is a fair way of calling him out right now. Performing when he needs to. Of course, whenever he possibly can. Improving on his lap times. Just pushing to the maximum. And there's very little track time, of course, that these drivers actually get over the week, which I think just makes it all the more impressive, really. Gotta see it all in live action to really make up our minds here. See just what more these drivers can do. In 3 more minutes here, currently fastest time to beat is Roberto Lorente, who's overtaken Jeremy Baumert by a small margin at this rate. Not that matters though per se. I'd say they're doing pretty well right now. Yeah, Schnutken here is also being very competitive right now. Rino Cheville is still ahead of him, at least for now, but the lap times are fairly similar. I'm mainly worried about Norbert Dewau, because the gap is still 0.6 of a second. I mean, that is rough. Let me tell you, that is, of course, not great for him. Ja, Schnutgun knows he's got 2 more minutes here to make something work, and it's not going to be pretty. Time is ticking away here. I think the GT3 drivers now have kind of made up their mind for this race. I think there's still more up for grabs, but drivers should be settling right now. I mean, this is great, right? You just gotta see how incredible it feels. Well, do note also that these drivers, of course, are just doing this in their free time. Look at the cameras, by the way, that we have set up. It gives you a nice little view of how things are looking over in our esports bars. Of course, the Nürburgring, but also Koblenz is a very popular place that we have our esports center in. It's also one that gets visited quite a lot. It's quite a big one compared to some of the others that we have, which is funny to see. Now, I do want to point out that, of course, these drivers here are paying for their seats. It's not a free competition to enter, but it doesn't matter much, I think, at the end of the day, because as long as they're having fun, right, that's the most important part. And well, let me tell you, they have. Obviously, time is now up, so we're gonna get to the closing time of the session, which is pretty soon. Gotta see what comes around during the race, because that's obviously where it matters most. Jan Snutken is currently still P16 overall. He's had a good race so far. Of course, also not to forget, I think there are still spots open for the finale at the Nürburgring. Jan Stutten's going to come in and cross the line one more time, and then we'll see what can happen, I suppose. Now the all is okay. Lap times, and it's time to get into a little bit of a break, and we're going to be back, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as the race starts. Okay, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. It is Maximilian Röhrig who takes provisional pole here, and after an intense clash, I think we'll be very happy with his results as they stand right now. So yeah, that's it. All is good, all is well. In the GT3 class, it is Roberto Lorente that does the best. Time to see what the race has in store for us. We're taking a little bit of a break. Afterwards, we are back with race number 1, and also the only race of today.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
So it's very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
I love this atmosphere. It's the calm before the storm.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult place.
very, very good to have all these fans back here in the home of motorsport.
I love this atmosphere. It's the calm before the storm.
All right, then we're about to get started here. Safety car is currently leaving us. We are good to go. Thibaut Ruffiot has actually gotten a drive for the jump start, but I think that will be looked at. One of the drivers already gone very, very wide. This Maximilian Rurig that will take the first position here. As of now, the GT3s are also off, of course. Yeah, the jump starts will have to be looked at by the stewards. Big luck up there for one of the Ferraris. My guess is that that would be Paris was actually going to be finding himself still moving up positions despite that, actually. And Maximilian Rurig has actually taken this all for himself. Now Kylian Lutterbach is chasing. Gotta keep in mind that Maximilian Rurig just had that pace. A little bit over an hour and 10 minutes to go as we start the race. Obviously, we start under the safety car with an hour and 15 minutes total, but we do a full warm-up lap, which obviously takes some time here. But yeah, we are now underway. It is Maximilian Rurig leading the charge here. Tiny bit of a lockup. Keep in mind that the tires are very cold. We do still see the drive-through penalties and other penalties coming through. And Lutterbach has got it into him. I think also it is Timothy Spreece now P3. And a good race start here. I think mainly for Fabian Klein is going to be kicking himself because he knows he can stay up there and do well, but he needs to try and fight his way back for it. Fabian Klein is in P4 for now. So all is good here. Tiny lockups here, but not the end of the world. Keep in mind that cool tires are always tricky to drive, and I think that the cars that are currently finding it out in the top will actually see that Maximilian Rurig just has more raw pace. But you know, Kylian and Timothy, they're not going to be able to keep up. But the only driver that I think is in the true contention of being able to do so, Fabian Klein, who has been pushed back a little bit here, especially considering how well he did in the first qualifying session, I can call it that. And it's been tricky for him, you know, so he needs to try and see if he could get by as soon as possible. First lap is completed here, and it is Maximilian Rurig on 2 seconds ahead of everyone else for now. And we do now see Roberto Lorente. Look at the gap that he has created already in the GT3s. I mean, he's a driver that we know can perform, but do need things to be a little bit more fair than this, because otherwise it's going to be pretty boring, I can tell you that much. You know, for now, Van Kanaal getting himself a 5-second penalty from the stewards. And currently him being in the midfield, it's going to see him draw back a little bit later on as soon as we get to the pit lane. And Thibaut Ruffieux has actually decided to take his drive through early. With Thibaut Ruffieux now looking to see if he can make up time. I mean, currently he is second last here, only behind Michael Fuchs and Andre Hennes. The BMW and Ferrari were all the way behind still. Michael Fuchs is also in the pit lane now, so he's got a long way to cover here in Austin. I also need to keep in mind that Andre Hennes, who's currently P33, is actually in the hypercar class. So whatever's happened to him, he's not going to be having a great time here. Kylian Lutterbach still P2 for now. Fabian Klein not able to get by the other hypercars. Michael Bauer P5, Master Silva right behind him. Jeremy Baumert here looking to chase, but 2.5 seconds, the gap already increased by a fair bit here. It's a matter of time until we figure out what they are able to do with it though. A little bit sketchy there for Kylian Lutterbach, but he's managed to keep it going in the right direction. I thought for a second he was actually going to spin out, but no, that isn't the case luckily. Just looking for a little bit of a smooth start here. There's another lockup here for Kylian Lutterbach. It's just not what he wants, and the tires, of course, are going to be taking a little bit of a hit here. I also saw a little bit of contact by Norbert Dewald with another driver. I'm not sure who that was exactly, but noted in the background, and it will be looked at by the stewards here. The great thing is that the drivers have now done a couple laps here, which should help them in theory now with the cars getting warmer and warmer. I think that is also kind of what Kylian Lutterbach is hoping for, hoping that when the tires have warmed up that he's able to just catch up a little bit more, because he seemed to have a few struggles here with it in the beginning. Patrick Fuchs has now taken the drive-through penalty. Lock up yet again. Fabian Klein still P4 here. He's got it into him, I think. Looking up there a little bit here. And Fabian Klein here looking to also see if he can maybe go the distance. Michael Fuchs is currently on a 5-second penalty from race direction. Rino Cheville P14, that puts him P3 currently in his class. Tom Claes is having a little bit of a battle here with Noah Boltzhaus, who's driving the BMW M4 GT3. And I think it's very cool to see that the Corvettes are out there. Obviously not very competitive cars IRL, I think, but a little bit of a mistake there being made by Tom Claes. Now Noah also had that, and he actually decided to let another BMW go too. Also looked down the inside here for Ingo Werner. He was not quite able to send it in here, so not yet, but it does cost him a little bit of time here. So be it here. Maximilian Roerwijk in the meanwhile extending his lead to 4 seconds already. So some big fights happening everywhere essentially. Jan Schnutken kind of in the middle of nowhere now, stuck behind Norbert Dewald. He had some contact and I think picked up some minor aero damage during that. But ahead of Jan Emmons, who's 6 seconds off pace here. Anthony Hunt is now also serving his drive-through penalty here. Very early on. That's obviously not great, but stuff like that happens, and briefing is obviously very clear. Fabian Klein actually losing out now to Michael Bauer, and I think the driver that will be happy to hear that most is Maximilian Röhrig, who is obviously trying to see if he could catch up with Fabian Klein here, because the race is obviously far from over. The season finale just is going to be even more important, especially if it stays like this. But Fabian Klein, he does have pace. That's not the issue per se, but keep in mind also that the fact that he's in clean air and the other drivers are battling is just going to be such an advantage here for Maximilian Röhrig, especially, who's already gotten that gap up to 5.5 seconds roughly here, even though we haven't even been racing for 15 minutes yet. It's just a little bit over an hour to go. Field has settled in here. GT3s are not really in overtaking mapping contention yet here. I mean, the gap between the fastest GT3 and the slowest hypercar that is not involved in incident. Ooh, a little bit of contact there for Röhrig, and that's going to cost him time also. As I was saying, the faster drivers still got far to go. I don't know exactly what's going on with the GT3s already, but just as I said, it's going to be a while till they catch up to the faster GT3 cars. They still need to try and obviously battle through the slower cars, the cars that have been involved in accidents, the cars that picked up penalties. Going through that, and Kilian Lutterbach is laughing himself off right now, because keep in mind that he just got 3 seconds, in fact even more, 3.5 seconds gifted to him for free. Maximilian Röhrig just looking for that traction. And he is doing that. There goes yet another driver. Maximilian Röhrig here, P1 for now. Luckily for him, the Porsche there, very good awareness, realized that he could be getting into clean air from here. So, you know, the drivers, I must say, are doing a good job of keeping things clean. I'm not saying there's no contact, because there have been some contacts here, but I think in comparison it's definitely been worse, as Roberto Lorente here is in P11 right now. Trying to fight for it as hard as he can now. He is obviously the lead GT3 right now in a difficult battle for him. Jeremy Baumert is behind him, 2 seconds behind. Nice transition to him here actually, and this is currently what it's looking like here. I think Baumert's got to be careful there that he doesn't abuse the track limits too much. He's definitely on that edge. He's definitely looking to just see whatever there's left in him. And he might be in a good space. I think he most definitely is. First question is, what is the goal for him? The winner is currently P21. Cedric Abbiati, P20. And P20 it is. Cedric Abbiati is chasing Tom Clancy still. Drivers, of course, have been lapped already very early on into the race. Keep in mind that see some have served pit stops pretty early on. And Dorian Mamasic has actually got himself a 5-second penalty from race direction. Now, luckily for him, it's not a stop and go. I think that's great news for him, because that's exactly what you should be scared of in a position like this. I guess we'll figure it out along the way here. Long way to go still. Race still very late on. Cedric Gabrielli looking to do his thing. Heard from Canals actually picked up an automated penalty here, a drive-through no less, for cutting the track as Sabiati. Oh, it's a rare mistake. I think there was some contact in between, and now Tom Claes and him are just looking to get back onto the track while fighting even. That's just never a good sign, is it? Long way to go. This a very difficult race. It's fair to say. He wants to get himself involved in some further battles. This is Michael Bauer here looking to have a good time. Let's see what he can do. Position like this. But yeah, time is ticking here, I think, for some of these drivers to get by. I mean, especially the fact that Maximilian Rurik has just gone straight back to humiliating his opponents, right? Just showing how much pace he has. It's just absolute madness right now. I think, you know, it's only fair to say that that is just beyond impressive, what he's showing right now. It's really the only thing that I gotta say about it, really. I think for now, main priority, of course, will be to fix that kind of deficit that has been picked up. This is Abiati also getting himself a 10-second drive-through penalty. Or sorry, a 10-second penalty from the race direction here. Live stewarding, handing that out to him. Not great, he knows that, but just what he needs to deal with, I suppose. Not much else that could be done. A very long way then. What can these drivers do? A little bit later on, who knows? "56 minutes left on the clock here. So far everything is leading me to believe there's a long way to go still, but these drivers kind of already know what's going to be happening here. Obviously, not so much to show for here in this particular instance. We'll come around to it, and I think also important to note here is just that the fact that these drivers aren't on a completely equal playing field. Although, of course, we do have a BOP in place to keep things fair. It is by no means perfect, of course, so I think this will do for now. You know, that being said, we do see more penalties coming in. Also just corner cuts mainly, but I think it is fairly easily explained. I think the main thing that you need to know around this track is that it's actually quite tricky with the kind of track limits that are in place. And I think it's definitely what's caught some of these drivers off guard. Obviously, Maximilian Rurik, being a veteran of this game and just the Nürburgring competitions in general, has done a good job of it. Alexander Hawk in P7. Finally driving the number 7 car. Max Grenzner a little bit further down the field in his Porsche. Currently in the 156 mark per lap, and that just isn't quick enough considering that the best drivers are doing 152s consistently. And don't get me wrong, it's not like he's driving a bad race at all. Meanwhile, we focus up our own attention on the battle for P1 in the GT3 class. It is Roberto Lorente ahead of Jeremy Baumert. Lap traffic is very much a factor here. The hypercars are going to be looking to come around, and it's all just about where they meet those drivers. Jeremy Baumert, I think, got off it relatively unscathed. I don't think it's cost him that much time, but he needs that Ferrari to hurry up. It's actually costing him time now, and yeah, he's frustrated about that. And now, obviously, he's hoping that he does the same to the Audi, but the Audi just meets him at such a more convenient time. But also some great race awareness we're seeing here from Jeremy Baumert. Also, Fabian Klein coming around, and yeah, I mean, he's just desperately looking to make up for that space, and I think the Audi just is more favored here, if anything. Jeremy Baumert, P13. Overall, P2 in the class. I mean, him and Lorento, they're probably the one to watch, right? So, Roberto Lorente and Jeremy Baumert for P1 and 2 respectively. Rufio, I think, also just making a massive comeback right now. I mean, P22, considering where he started, is very much impressive here. I want to stay along this battle a little bit longer. Renta has regained some time here now that traffic helped him a fair bit. It's not an easy position to be in by any means, but I guess we'll figure out how that goes eventually along the way here. Jeremy Baumert's here. Still not quite by him, but once again he is catching up, which makes me think that he just has a slightly better pace in that regard. So that's great to see from him. He's got the pace, and I think he's also doing just everything that is to be expected of him. So in that sense, a good race from him so far. And Leonard van Canal, P11, looking good so far. Just a very solid race from him overall at this point. I think it also just goes to say that the consistency of some of these drivers is just at an incredible level, really. It's the only thing I gotta say about it. I mean, of course, I think some of these drivers are also driving for the Nürburgring eSports team, so just shows how well they're doing. Cabrera looking to come around. His driver to the spin delivering all seasons, but he's had some mixed results. Got himself involved with incidents. For example, a little bit of a luck up there, not great, but stuff like that does happen. It's not been the end of the world there. I think the tires can handle quite a bit here before they actually go to the point where they become undrivable. Harry Broberg here. And the iconic Falcon colors has got a long way to go here. Anthony Mottas. Just getting out there with another drive-through that he served. Adding to the tally. So painful it has been for him, I think. There, a little bit of a spin for Jonathan Nefgen. You know, most of these drivers made a couple mistakes here and there, but it's all been fairly minimal, I'd say. Drivers recovering nicely from their small incidents and just keep pushing all the way here. So that is recovered, and this is what it looks like from the POV of the drivers. To give you an idea of how it's looking in the Koblenz and Nürburgring locations. So your biggest bars out there, Nürburgring, obviously quite close to the ring. If you've ever been to the ring, you know exactly where it is probably. But surely also worth a look. Definitely a lot more cost effective, let's say, than some of the other alternatives on four wheels. I think that's fair to say. Michael Bauer P5 overall here. And we see also that in classes Victor Mestre Silva. All these drivers that are here are also participating from the locations of the Nürburgring eSports bar. We always do that, with the exception of the bigger races, which get filled by the AC Friends community that we've been partnered with for quite some time now. Here a little bit of a mistake for Alexander Hawk, and that doesn't help traffic. It is Max Granzer also looking to come around. Also, it's quite a busy evening, it appears, over at the Nürburgring location. We're very much focused up here on preparing everything. Cool to see a little bit of behind the scenes here for all these drivers. This is Lennart from Canal. And to very much come from afar here to even get close to good points. Now P10 overall, which is pretty good. And here's another drive-through for cutting the track here. Track limits. It's Jonathan Nufkan getting himself one. Now actually this is just to demonstrate the raw pace difference between the Audi GT3 and the LMH/LMDH classes. This is the Ring siege we're currently watching. P11 is currently. Lorente here still doing a good job, but he's finding himself behind Jeremy Baumert for now. Unfortunately. What is there up to do? Oh, Roberto Renta goes for a very aggressive dive there. Wants to get behind his back Marcus as soon as he can, because they are going to keep him up during the majority of it, which is a little bit of a shame, but it's just how that stuff goes sometimes, right? So, not ideal, most definitely, but will do for now. What is there up for grabs here for Norbert D? Well, because he has space. It's been quick enough. That's not really been the issue for him. Maybe just how and where do you get to use that pace, and just is it enough to catch up with the gaps, because they are quite large already. I guess that's just something we're gonna have to discover as the race gets closer and closer to the end already. Now obviously we are still ready for 40 more minutes of racing here, with Maximilian Rari currently leading in the overall and hypercar categories, whereas it is currently the GT3 being led by Jeremy Baumert for the time being. Overall, I think a logical step here along the way. It's mainly just been these two in the GT3 class that have been going for such a long while. Drivers that have always been competitive, essentially. Which is cool to see. This is Norbert D. Wild 10. What can he do in a position like this? Johan Boltzhauser doing well also. Alexander Hawk, a hypercar driver, getting himself a little bit of a drive-through penalty, unfortunately for him. Here. Also having a very solid race. Currently good for a just about, I was going to say a P5, but it's actually a P6 right now in this class. With penalties very much being a factor here from time to time. As we go back to full screen, this is Thibaut Raffieux. I mean, if there's one driver having a massive comeback right now, it would be this one. He's just been performing every single round so far of this championship, and this time, of course, a little bit hard struck by unfortunate penalties and incidents. Shame for an otherwise very consistent driver as Anthony Mottas here. We get to see what he can do in a position like this. Also, traffic of GT3s now being a factor into this is definitely not helping, right? These drivers are also going to get into the way of these faster GT3 cars. It just makes this incredibly difficult to get around. Now another drive to being served. It's Jonathan Nefkin who still had one. Also some more contacts here towards the north side of things between one of the hypercars and in this case the BMW backmarker. Just not going to make this easier by any means. Everything still to play for, of course. This is Alexander Erben. Going to come around. David Gosman currently stuck in the pit lane. Also, Eric Roback currently being stuck in the pit lane, which for certain doesn't help. He's back at it again though, although he's got a long way to go. I mean, he's currently out there in P30 overall on 15 laps total, whereas the leaders of this class are already on oh, believe it or not, 18 already. Quick as that goes. Not great for him, but no, it's still far from over, luckily for him. 34 minutes here to try and make a comeback happen. Maximilian Roerich still leading by 19 seconds at the moment. Dominant race from him, currently led by very little mistakes. I think that is fair to see, as we see Julien Sechot having some contact with Alexander Erben in the background. We weren't able to see it on the stream, but they did touch, and it's a little bit rough on that also. Maximilian Röhrig here. In a position like this, it's still sketchy because look at that, he's almost lost it there. Driver that is behind him is actually a driver that is in lap now in this class. That's Alexander Hawk behind him. Just to put that into some perspective, I mean, currently 21 laps in. Got a long way to go, and here are some driver POVs. Offset drivers, very much focused here. Interestingly enough, you see a lot more action here behind the wheel from the right POV, it looked like. But I think that actually had to do with just a part of the circuit they ring. It's a Fanatec wheelbases. They have got quite the punch on them, I must say. Now you can see also just how tricky it is with the traffic being in the way. Yeah, the GT3 definitely holding up some of these hypercar drivers. Keep chasing here, a little bit of a knock-up also. A yellow flag is out there again. Now this time there actually wasn't a crash by the looks of things. It's Maximilian Röhrig still leading. Cedric Appiati getting himself actually a disqualification here because he hasn't served his drive-through. As Gattani picks up a drive-through for cutting the track, and that just shows how ruthless it can be. And during the briefing, not this race but the race before, they said that we're going to have to be a lot stricter when it comes to those disqualifications, and it's the end of the race. That would be quite a shame for him. Maximilian Röhrig here. What he needs, Thibaut Raffiot getting a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Fabian Klein with a little bit of a drift then. P3, but not quite P2 yet. Still the gap is 7.5 seconds, whereas Maximilian Röhrig has a 20-second lead over the both of them. Jonathan Nefkin picking up some damage here. As I said before, minor aero damage doesn't mean a lot per se, but it doesn't help. Patrick Fuchs getting himself a drive-through for cutting also, so there's these automated penalties given out there. Nothing that could be done for them. That's Fabian Klein with a little bit of a lock-up here. Eric Röhrig taking his drive-through penalty. Jeremy Bauer being overtaken. Laurent has actually gone into the pits, meaning that Schnutgen is now up to P2, and Sabriel is also going to get a disqualification for not taking the right precautions when it comes to the drive-through penalty. Jeremy Baumert looking quite alright here, I must say. Here we see Jeremy Baumer just being overtaken by these way faster hypercars all along the way, but it doesn't matter. They're driving a different race, of course, and they are just mere driving obstacles, those GT3 cars for the hypercars, and they know that also. But I must say that it's for a multi-class race, I want to say it's been a fairly active, but also quite consistent championship, where driving standards are actually quite high, I want to say. "28 minutes to go, so under half an hour in this 75-minute race total. Jeremy Baumert here, P12 still. Jeremy Baumert here. Just also been a more consistent driver with the lap times, really. I mean, currently he's doing around 206s, just like everyone else, but seems to be hitting those almost every lap, whereas Jan Snutken is currently down to the 208s. Leonard van Canal still currently P11 ahead of the GT3, the fastest GT3, but still a long way to go, I must say. Maximilian Verwijk still leading. I mean, the gap is just massive, right? It's just beyond impressive what this man is doing right now. He's really got all to show for it. Maximilian still just currently in total bliss because the gap that he's got is so incredibly large. He knows that he should be confident here, no matter what. This will net up some good points. Fabian Klein is in P2, but he's yet to pit, so I wonder what's going to be happening as soon as these drivers finish up their laps and now finish their pit stops. And then I'd love to see what happens then, because that's where things really get intense. Fabian Klein still chasing with the hopes and dreams being alive. Knows there's a long way to go for it still. Jonathan Nefkin getting himself a drive-through for cutting the track here is not going to help him particularly, to say the least, because he was doing well up until that point. But he now really seems to struggle with it a little bit. Julien Sechot getting himself a 5-second penalty Will be added to total race time if he doesn't pit anymore. Jeremy Baumert here. Ooster Schnutken's long gone. But you also need to consider the fact that the top 2 drivers currently still both need to complete their pit stop. So it doesn't give a fully accurate representation, but I feel like it is giving us a good idea of what's happening right now over in the GT3 class, because I do think that Jeremy Baumert will be able to stay ahead no matter what in the position, really. Jeremy Baumert I think right now for him the objective is to just save the tires as much as humanly possible and then just go from there. See where that brings him. Neff can serve his drive-through penalty. He's gotten a few of those so far. Seems to not be taking it very strict with the drive-through regulations, although I must admit that they are pretty tricky sometimes. Jeremy Baumert here. Just focused on his lines. 20 minutes to go. Just knows that the only thing that he needs to do is just remain calm. And then he'll be totally okay as it stands right now. He knows that too, so that's exactly what he's going to be doing. Tom Clancy, P19. Looking to hang around. Bit of a mistake being made there, but all okay at the end of the day, luckily for him. Tom Clancy, also a good race overall from him. Obviously behind by a couple seconds, right? Baumert obviously there in P12, P1 in this class. Then we have Schnutken right behind. Then we have Boltzhauser, Lorente, Neville, but all of those drivers have pitted in so far, although some of them, of course, were for penalties and related to such. Maybe not entirely accurate, but it gives you a rough idea of how things are standing, and everyone's gonna pit at some point here. Because you just don't have enough fuel, and I think these drivers will also be taking it to themselves to go for a little bit of a tire swap, because those tires, I mean, you can manage them 75 minutes. It's not the end of the world, but I think ideally you want to be putting yourself in a position where if you have the gap, go for it. You just make sure you get new tires, you play everything safe, and then know that everything's gonna be alright at the end of the day. Back to Lorente. Has a long gap to be filling here. A little bit of a lock up there for Lorente, despite this car's actually having ABS, of course. Roberto Lorente here. Doing a good job of keeping the lap times consistent, but it just seems that after all it's just too little too late for him, really. And Lorente doing a good job of covering himself off. Jeremy Baumert now just needs to make sure that he can collaborate with all the traffic, make sure that he doesn't get into the way too much, maybe get into a slipstream here and there to help himself a little bit further up, but even if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world, really. Gaps are big, essentially everyone's come in, although Baumert still needs to, but it's a 53-second gap right now, which just is too big to really make the most out of. And I think all drivers have come to that realization at this point. We'll keep working for it, no matter what here. Jeremy Baumert, I mean, what a run it has been from him, right? It's just sensational stuff right now that we're seeing. Both of these drivers know that they have the potential to make it to the P1 of the championship. Baumert's putting himself in a great position right now. He'll stay focused on that no matter what. Championship, of course, is the goal. And Maximilian Röhrig doing a good job right now. Fabian Klein just needs to make sure he keeps this up to minimize damage. And in the GT3 class, everything is still up for grabs, of course. And each drivers, they know it. 15 minutes left to go here. Clock running down. Now, with the hypercars seemingly dealing with each other rather well. I mean, the gaps have just kind of disappeared for the majority of the grid, really. It's definitely been one of those races where the gaps have just increased immensely. For whatever reason, that just happens sometimes, really. Shame though, but stuff like that will happen. Even though the racing has been good, I do hope that some of these drivers are going to find each other. Long ways to go, some disqualifications, some drivers just running for nothing, essentially. And I'm on Sear. good midfield position, or actually way better than midfield position. Not quite able to contest for the top podium spots, but right, Baumer and Lorente, we knew we were going to be quicker. Schnutgen's always done well, so is Cheville. Ewald also, yes. Now Boltzhaus and Emmons and Clacy have been, I think, for me, the biggest wild cards in this race, as Nefken's going to have to serve another drive-through. He's struggling to keep it on the track this race, which is costing him a valuable time, and it's actually going to allow Patrick Fuchs to get ahead of him when that penalty is served. So yeah, some small incidents happening here and there, but generally speaking, it's been good. Arenta P13. And I wonder what's going through his head right now, because he knows that the championship is still very much up for grabs here. He knows that anything is possible, and with these prizes, I mean, right, you've got the Nürburgring driving experience. That's quite the prize, I want to say, too. I mean, wouldn't want to do that. I most definitely would. Of course, also some tourist drive vouchers up for grabs. I think everyone loves those immensely. Me included. We had the honor of driving on the track once, but of course I'd absolutely love to again. It is just the most iconic racetrack of the entire world. So it's been a good one. Kilian at the back still P3. I mean, if you could catch up to Fabian Klein and maybe make it difficult for him, that would be very frustrating here for Fabian Klein, who's obviously going to be losing out on valuable points in a system like this. Kilian Lutz back then. Also moving up closer and closer. Just seems like he doesn't have the raw pace to get to it immediately, though. Which is unfortunate. I know that he's got it in him to do so. Perhaps may just be needing a little bit more help here and there. A little bit of a lock up there for Kilian Lutteback, and it's not going to be helping him at all, unfortunately. Michael Bauer having a little bit of a lockup. He's still being chased with Timothy Breeze, and so we are going to see some more fights coming through here at least now, which is good to see. Make things just a little bit more exciting now. Michael Bauer still in a solid P4. Is going to be doing a good bit here to keep it up for his team. And he just needs to try and see if he could keep things clean now. Timothy Breeze having a little bit of a moment there, locks up, and would be glad that everything could have been avoided there. Does that look like a gnarly surprise, but luckily has been able to keep that up here. Nico Bauer here is standing in P4 for now. It's a good result for him. I think just once again, just best of the rest is what he would have aimed for anyways. Roig leads in this class, followed by Klein and Lutterbach. Then behind that it is Baumert, Lorente and Schnutgen in the GT3 class. Leading the way, Anthony Mattes serving the drive-thru that he picked up. Fabian Klein still, I mean, the gap is 33 seconds. He's not going to make that happen in 6.5 minutes unless Roig makes a rare mistake, but we just haven't been seeing that much. Afghan surfing another drive-through penalty. I mean, he's currently on 6 pit moments, which is absolute madness if you ask me. Just so much. Also, there are still gaps. I mean, Lutterbach could still make it up to the back of Klein, and Sperris could still make it up to the back of Bauer here, but it's all looking pretty unlikely. He's in the current state with just 5 minutes to go. There's another drive-through for Erik Rohrbach, too, guest driver in this series. Of course, we have these drivers who all do their own thing. And participate in the entire season, but we also have some drivers who are only here for a couple races in total. Which, of course, is just as fun. Question, of course, always is it enough for these drivers to have any impact, like, for example, in the World Rally Championship, or is it mainly just them racing for fun and not really being able to be competitive? It's a rough toss, big lock up there for Fabian Klein, but he gets the car slowed down. Maybe that allows Lutterbach to just slowly start rolling that gap down again. Figure it out along the way, I think. Fabian Klein here. Klein to make it happen. Victor Mr. Silva taking a very late drive-through penalty, and that's not going to help his position, although he should just be safe, I think, from Daniele Gattani, who's been quite quiet all race, it feels like. really hurt to name that much this time around, unfortunately. Stuff like that will happen. Can't always win. Can't always do incredibly well. And I mean, let's be honest, he has had a good season so far. I don't think anyone's going to be taking that away from him. But of course, the gap to best of the best are still very much there. Julien has to show in quite a hopeless position here. That penalty is just not going to help him at all, and make things just even more rough, really, if anything. Anthony Maltas here. We're going to see if he could get a position, but 14 seconds to Thibaut Raffieux, who I think definitely has been driving a massive comeback drive. Hasn't really been enough for him, I think, but considering what he had to work with, I don't think he should be complaining at all. That's a fair agreement by any means, but minute left on the clock here. Not easy. This is Maldas just finishing up his lap. Now as soon as that checkered flag is coming out, that is where things change up a little bit there. Everyone gets to finish their lap as soon as the leader has finished it, so long way to go still. A little bit of a mistake being made, a little bit too wide. Here is Maximilian Röhrig then on his final lap, and he's going to take the checkered flag in a absolute dominant fashion. P1 it is for him, 40 seconds to the P2. Impressive stuff out there. Yeah, Klein's just got such a long way to go still. Of course, we're also going to be paying attention to the GT3s, whoever gets to finish first there. Indeed, he's got a long way to go, so it's going to overtake the GT3 leader right there, who's going to be taking the checkered flag first in his class. Things will come around that way. I'm sure that all will be okay. Well, there it is then. Winner is Jeremy Baumert-Lorente, comes in P2, impressive, and Van Canal picks up the final penalty here, unfortunately. A little bit rough there, really, but I suppose that just happens. And, well, Lorente for a good result. Schnutken right behind in P3, I think it's a massive result for him. Röhrig will take it. Klein will be happy to minimize the damage here. Moving on to the final race of the season, of course, here. Armin Iglesias also picked up a little bit of a penalty there. towards the end, a messy race, but a fun one at that. And I think you could be very happy with the results like this. And yeah, Tom Clancy also picks up a 10-second penalty at the end. So the live stewards quite active. It is Fabian Klein to win. Heroic P2, Lottebeck right behind. It is Bauer and Sperrisen to finish the top 5. And then it is Baumert, Lorente, Schnutken, Cheville, and Diewald. Our top 5 for the GT3 class here. So impressive stuff, really. I hope you guys have enjoyed that as much as I have. And well, before we shut off, I think I've got a final few words to say. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed that. What a race that was, right? That was just incredibly fun. And it leaves us to just one more race in total. But, you know, don't be sad. We're going to be continuing a little bit later on. We have a F1 series and a 12 hours coming up also after this. So we have our final first at the Nürburgring GP track. Then we have the 12 hours starting pretty soon. We have Barcelona starting pretty soon. That's the 7th of December. So long way to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Ricky. It's been a pleasure being your host today. Apologies for the lesser quality stream that you guys might be used to. Mainly, of course, due to the echo and such, right? So it is what it is. Not much that I could do. I'm very much on an improvised setup right now. But I hope you guys have enjoyed regardless. Thank you guys for watching. And I will see you guys later.
The atmosphere, the people here around are so passionate, so it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every time I see this.
The Nürburgring is really a very special place, and it's a very difficult